Great.
Okay, so we are live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and the website.
Wonderful. Well, it's 7 o'clock. Shall we get going, panelists? How are we feeling? Good.
Ready to roll.
Ready to roll. Well, excellent. Let's get started. Good evening, everybody joining us today. We are so happy for you to be spending your Thursday evening with us as part of Central Ohio Reentry Week. It's a soggy one here in Central Ohio, but we are so excited to be with you all today in this space for our Arts and Reentry panel. Just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items before we kick things off. We are in a very tech-driven world, so it is also the evening hour. So what that means is we invite you to participate in whatever ways that you would find most meaningful to you. You can choose to utilize the chat functions, ask questions by typing them in. But what we want to make sure is that you're comfortable and you're participating in however way that makes the most sense for you. As for questions, we'll hold some time towards the end of our conversation today to make sure we leave some space for questions with our panelists. And I will make sure that I prompt everyone that you will know when that time comes. So for now, feel free to put them in the back of your head or write them down, and we'll prompt you when we're ready for them. Don't worry, we'll get to your questions, I promise. And depending on the Zoom setting, if you're able to view in speaker or gallery view in the top right corner of your Zoom screen, if you're joining us by Zoom, you should be able to toggle between speaker and gallery. That's there in the top right corner. So just a couple of things to help you out here to make this a really great experience. And with that, I'd like to start off by just doing a really quick round of introductions before diving into a little deeper of our panelists' work. So panelists, this is just to kind of say hello and introduce yourselves. This is not the moment where you can start to share some of your brilliant work. We'll just go around the circle and say hello, and I'm happy to start. So my name is Jared Small, and I am your panel facilitator for the evening. So I'll be leading us through the various topics and elements of the session. And a quick bit about me: I am the chair of the Ohio Prison Arts Connection, or OPAC for short. I am also an arts learning coordinator at the Ohio Arts Council, which is a state agency supporting arts and culture around the state through education, the economy, and culture. And I'll talk a bit more about the Ohio Arts Council, my role there, with OPAC a bit later on. But for now, I want to have each of our panelists just say a quick hello and tell us who you are. Can we start with the ladies, please?
Oh, so Dr. P, you don't want to go first. You don't put me on the spot. I got you. So I'm Tresalyn. Hi, everybody, and welcome this evening. I am the Director of Social Services at the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I've only been in that position for about 6 months or so. Before that, I spent 15 and a half years as a deputy sheriff with Franklin County. But most importantly, I'm here tonight as a Peace Love creator.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Patrice Palmer with the Office of Justice Policy and Program. I've been in that role as a reentry support specialist for 6 years now. And I am on tonight as a Peace Love creator and to share our work in our correctional facility with this amazing program. Thank you.
Thanks so much. How about Zach? How about you next?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Zach Ruppel, and I am a justice data analyst with the Office of Justice Policy and Programs. And I am also the director of contemporary music at St. Paul Lutheran Church in Westerville.
How you guys doing? My name is Michael Powell. I'm director of outreach and new initiatives at Healing Broken Circles, and a poet and writer.
Wonderful. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. We've got a really wonderful group here today, if you couldn't tell already. Before we dive any deeper, I want to take a quick moment just to kind of seed the grass, if you will, and give a bit of an overview about why we're here today and why the arts in reentry matter so much. So first, I kind of want to set the stage a bit and talk a bit about what we mean when we say the arts. So if you're seeking a technical term, there is a definition in the Ohio Revised Code. It defines the arts as inclusive of, but not necessarily limited to, literature, theater, music, dance, painting, sculpture, photography, architecture, and motion picture. So it's quite a wide range when we talk about the arts, but again, it doesn't have to stop there. Any activity that involves the expression or application of human creative potential and skill and imagination, I think, in my opinion, could be considered artistic. So what that looks like for you all, what it looks like for me or your community or our community could be very different. You may have sung in Carnegie Hall on some of the world's greatest stages, or you may have only sung in your shower. You may have had visual art displayed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or you might only have some sketches in a sketchbook placed on your bedside table. The point is, we are all artists. We are surrounded by art. Art is everywhere, and it's for everyone, and the arts matter. No matter your background, no matter if you have 0 or 200 artistic bones in your body, everyone can participate and consume the arts in a way that makes the most sense for them. So our goal today is to demonstrate and discuss how viable the arts are as a successful method of reentry for everyone, even if you're not an artist. The arts can really do it all. They can create connections, create belongings, communication, healing, therapy, reconciliation, the creation of safe spaces, and much, much more. So the bottom line here is the arts can build community, and the arts are community. So that's my soapbox, and I hope we'll be able to demonstrate this tonight through our wonderful panel members and allow us all to take away some ideas and resources to make the most out of your creative human potential is really what it's all about. So we'll talk about art before, during, after, and or aside from incarceration, which may even allow us to view the criminal justice system or your community differently. So I'll stop there, and I will now turn it over to our panelists. And I want to first start with you, Michael, if you don't mind. I believe you might have a piece to share with us. Is that right, to kind of kick things off?
Yes, indeed. So
Great.
So, I'll let you guys hear the piece, then give you a little context in it. I once was the president, and all through the land there was love at the mention of my name. Not critically acclaimed, just a student of the cage who graduated at the top of his game to invoke change. That was me, the one they aspired to be, the one who was the proper example through all my conduct, an influential germ. The highest self-esteem I could learn, I walked tall through the commission of my term. Then they let me out. Dry mouth, I was thirsty for the task of showing all my reentry reality, but quickly learned the steam doesn't cross-pollinate, and my term as president didn't register to society. I'm starting new. So what am I to do? When all the good I've done was stuck behind a long fence, and all of my speeches were heard by voices that don't make a sound, and my constituents aren't here to represent. I was lost. The cost of a crime. The value of time isn't present for those who never went without it. Skills and influence don't transcend to those who never walk within. I can't lie. Man, these people had me doubting that I was the one that showed different, the one who had ties but wasn't tied to the system, the one who spoke power and life, was bright. My esteem wavered quickly and I settled in depression. Thoughts of the old days and old ways seemed to permeate my mind. I thought, time to revamp my campaign. My access to the masses came from rapping in a cadence like rain with ideas left to rotate in the brain. America's Nightmare was my first stage. I tried to paint a picture of my plight to enlighten through the music. If art and creation is a device to bring life into a movement, it's a crime in itself not to use it. As lyrics started spewing from my heart to ready ears, it was clear my esteem was ever present and poignant. I thought I reached more as I poured on new tracks with new messages, a showcase of my presence and blessings. So when they ask me on my campaign how his life made me change, I just snicker, because it really hasn't. Just had to make music to my madness through my political prowess and just wait for my day to be elected. Thank you. So just to give some context, when I was released from prison, I thought that I had it figured out. Like, you know, that's all we do is plan while you're there. So when you get out, you feel like, you know, it's just time to put the plan into action. And it didn't work that way at all with me. I was having, you know, very strong troubles with finding my footing. And like I said in the poem, it caused me to go into like kind of like a state of depression, almost to the point where I was like, I want to go back because, you know, that's where I was comfortable at. And it wasn't until Dr. Jesse Glover reached out to me for Radio OPAC and gave me an opportunity to speak about some of the work that I had done while I was inside, through theater and Healing Broken Circles and the Theater of Conviction program. In there, I was able to do some things that allowed me to step out of character, allowed me to develop my inner character and find confidence to be able to match both. So given the opportunity to speak about my experience there helped me to see that that's where I find the most fulfillment. And through, you know, music and poetry and developing a character and stepping outside of myself for a second, just so I can look at it. It was the thing that I was needing for me to feel like I was going to be something, because just getting out and finding a job and doing it didn't serve me. It's not what makes me happy, you know? So going through that process and going through there, I also around that time released a song called America's Nightmare. And, you know, I just really wanted to put my voice out there to speak on some of the things that, you know, someone who looks like me goes through on a daily basis. And the way that people took to it helped me see like, okay, this is my way of expression. And this is the way that I can advocate for myself as well as change in the world. And I wasn't going to find that anywhere else. So then I got hired by HBC, Healing Broken Circles, as the director of outreach, which allowed me to continue the work that I was doing while I was in prison. So if it wasn't for those experiences while I was inside, however they had to transpire, I wouldn't feel like I feel today. I wouldn't be here having this conversation today. And, you know, the arts and creativity allowed me to see that while I was there, which also allowed me to come out here and be able to make an impact in the positive versus, you know, my former life where it was negative. So I feel like, you know, arts and creation and in any of you, you know, you named a whole bunch of things, you named a whole bunch of things, but, you know, mine is more performance based and it's more character based and just able to be bigger than I ever seen myself before. So, you know, that's where my power lies. And that's where I believe power lies in other people who view like me. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing both your work and your backstory, Michael. It's nothing short of inspiration, to be quite frank. So thanks for that. We want to take a quick moment to introduce another individual who we have on the line here. We've got Mr. Jeffrey Sparr. Jeffrey, we'll move on to our next panelist in just a moment, but Jeffrey, would you mind saying hello to the folks out there, a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name's Jeff Sparr. I'm the artist and co-founder of an organization called Peace Love, which is the originator of the Creators Program that both Tress and Patrice are superstars of, and I'm on tonight to cheer them on and applaud the incredible work that they do. That's inspiring, you know, to everybody in our community around the country. You know, it was a pleasure. It's a tough act to follow on the back end of Michael. You know, usually I'm not lost for words, but I can't say it any better than he said. And, you know, I always say the stories are the stories, and, you know, Michael's story and millions of others, you know, like Michael is truly an inspiration. I know, you know, as an organization, we are committed to doing everything we can to help utilize creativity as a vehicle to give people hope and, you know, a new you know, chapter in their life. So I applaud, you know, all our panelists and everybody on here for the incredible work they're doing. It's truly life-changing, and, you know, creativity can change people's lives. I've often said that, and I'm no doctor, but I think the challenge is, you know, finding ways to get it to people so that I can help them. And, you know, we're all about that and trying to find accessible and affordable creative ways to be able to allow people to help themselves, like Michael had just talked about. So I applaud the work that's going, and excited to learn this evening from everybody. And just a shout out to Patrice and Tress. They are absolute, rock stars, and I can't even begin to tell you, the impact that they're having in their communities and around the nation, to our community who's watching their work with a close eye. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sparr. I really appreciate those words, and thank you for joining us and spending your evening here. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. It's actually a really wonderful segue. Why not? To Director Butler and Dr. Palmer. We'd love to have you say a few words about Peace Love, the history behind it, the various modalities, the pieces involved. The floor is yours for what you'd like to share with the group next.
So I think that it's important to know a little bit of background about the Franklin County Sheriff's Office and the Franklin County jails if you've never been to them. We are so far behind the times with everything that you can imagine. So when I introduced the idea of bringing an expressive arts program into the facilities, it was something that our command staff was kind of like, okay, you want to do what, with who, and how are we going to do this? But I dragged Dr. Palmer into many, many things. So this was one of our first major endeavors. I thought that it would be perfect to bring in as a pro-social activity to get buy-in. I figured that if they were programming, like participating in some intensive programming, bringing this on the back end as a pro-social activity, we may have less trouble or less naysaying with security staff. And so I chatted with Dr. Palmer. We went to a Peace Love expressive arts group in the community together. We had a blast, and she's like, this is something we have to do. And so the rest is pretty much history. We brought it in initially as a pro-social activity with her group Pathways, and we expanded there to our LGBTQ plus inmates and then to our maximum security inmates.
Yes, Director Butler pulls me into many things. She does, but this was an amazing endeavor. When she introduced me to Peace Love and we went to this workshop, immediately we were both sitting at the table and I looked at her. I said, we got to have it. Like, this can help our population. And reaching out to Jeff and the organization and going there to be trained in Rhode Island. One of the things I immediately said was, this is awesome, because its goal was to reduce the stigma of mental health and mental illness and really promote mental wellness, and to do it through the arts and to allow the arts to speak and articulate for people if they didn't even know how to themselves. And so when I met Jeff and the team and heard his story with mental health disorders and how he was using the arts to be able to center himself, find that peace of mind for himself, and then how they went to a hospital and done it with some terminally ill children, and how a little boy said, I feel peace and love. And so they developed this Peace Love program. But Jeff had used it as a means for him to deal with his mental health disorder. And so I said to him, like, we can use this in our population. So I immediately called Deputy Butler at the time and said, we got to get this in our jails. And so talking with Jeff and Butler coming on board and getting trained as a creator, we talked to them about our population that we served, and they have promoted the work that we do in Ohio in the criminal justice system with judges. We've done it in the judges' courtrooms. They came and filmed us for 3 days watching the work that we do. And so we've been able to instrument this amazing workshop using the arts to be able to help people have conversation that's meaningful, because we create a space that is safe for them to do it. So it's just been amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. It might now be a good time to share a bit more about the program through a video. Is now a good time, you think, Dr. Palmer, Director Butler? Okay,
Yes.
Great. Zach, if you don't mind, excellent. We'll watch a quick video here.
Peace Love programming is a critical component to our smart justice and restorative justice initiatives. We at Franklin County want to provide them with the opportunity to refresh their life.
In order to do that, we have to work with other entities. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office, we have the Justice Program, we have the Franklin County Commissioners, the court system. We work with numerous judges, Franklin County Probation Department, Southeast Mental Health. We have 2 facilities. One is the old facility, Metal Bars, and our other facility is like dorm setting. We have approximately 2,200 inmates. Their stay here might be anywhere between 17 to 30 some days, and prison's a good length of years.
Traditionally, programming is a certain number of dosage hours of cognitive behavioral therapy. So you sit and you learn how to think differently about yourself, why perhaps you make bad choices in the moment. But what Peace Love does is gives folks a way to express themselves in a healthy way. We really believe that having that kind of creative outlet is a huge part of the success, rather than saying, go to class 6 hours a week and then you'll be fine.
With the success of Peace Love in our bigger overall Pathways program, we recognized that it could be a standalone program for some of the populations that we felt were currently underserved. We started with our LGBT community, and then we moved it into our maximum security inmates.
This program has really made a huge difference in the lives of some of the most difficult of our clients to reach. It's been incredibly well received by the men who are considered so high risk that no other programming is offered to them.
When I came in here the first day, it was not an art class. It was dealing with perspectives. It was dealing with morals. It was dealing with values. It helped me to understand why my actions have been the way it was in the past through art. It helped me to trust. It broke a barrier.
The first day was just like, wow, something different, like real heartfelt to me that this program actually existed in this environment. Being able to share with the group, you know what I'm saying? Being able to have your time, your moment. And I actually thought like, okay, what really does bring me peace of mind today? You know what I mean? And I haven't really even thought about that question for a while. And then, like I say, that's like the beginning before the program even started.
I didn't know what to expect, but I'm glad I participated. It was a release. At the end, you have this artwork that you're doing and lets you see your way out.
There's no such thing as a bad Peace Love masterpiece because it's your story being poured out, and how can that be wrong?
The population I serve are females that have funneled in and out of the criminal justice system. Many of the women have trauma, undiagnosed mental health, addiction. Creating a safe space is important so that people know that there is a process to heal and that you're not alone. Let's deal with it together and walk through this process. Because when you can restore the value, the dignity, and the worth in a person, we return a more productive citizen back in society.
It helped me identify emotions that I didn't know I had. It's been freeing, and I feel stronger, and I feel just relieved. I'm just really thankful for this program. We've been able to show understanding and compassion to one another. It just brought us together and gave us unity.
Patrice and them, they actually genuinely care for us, and it's not good to keep your feelings bottled in. So putting it on paper, drawing and writing, I actually see what my life has been. It makes me want to change my life.
Peace Love programs have helped us build a sense of family. I have all kinds of anxiety and I worry a lot. So when I come here, it just brings a sense of calming over me. It kind of just reminds me who I am and where I'm going.
Having that piece of yourself that's focused inward, I think is a good thing, whether it's writing, doing something artistic, skilled at it or not, I think is just so critically important. When they get out and visit me in the office, they'll tell me how much this program means to them and that they're still doing their artwork. They're still believing that it matters.
So the population that I serve are males that are LGBTQIA+, as well as maximum security inmates. Peace of mind to me is just being able to take a moment and breathe and just let all things go. With my population, it's extremely important because they live in chaos. They're incarcerated, especially the maximum security guys who are facing serious charges. It's been amazing to see the impact that Peace Love has had on them.
just such a variety of things to use, so many different paints and canvases and paper and chalk, the hot glues and the markers and the box with accessories in there, like different things you can pick from to create your art, for you to express yourself.
It's very therapeutic, not having to worry about being in the confinements of jail. You're getting away from everything without having to go anywhere.
This isn't my first time locked up, so I've been in other programming. Peace Love was different because everybody interacted. It gave me hope that there's good people in the world. They don't see you as this criminal. They don't see you as this violent person. They can take time to dig deeper into who you are.
Like the one lady who came and she had been where we've been at. Like, she told us her story, and it was heartfelt to know that she changed and now she's productive in society. And that she got through it, I can get through it.
When I heard about Peace Love going on in the jail, I went to it, I participated, and I was blown away. And I immediately said, I have to bring it into the courtroom.
Programs like this really show people that redemption is possible, and truly seeing our clients as people and not as inmates with numbers on their backs.
I really think we need programs like Peace Love in the community to help the youth. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to let somebody know that how you're feeling inside. That's somebody out there that want to hear what you have to say, that want to help you.
I believe that we're building a foundation to where doing these things will be truly considered mainstream.
It's a good program, and I like to see it all around, for real. You know what I mean? It's like I got a lot out of it. And if I can get something out of it, you know, I think everybody could.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. It's amazing what's possible when we're allowed to make space to create. Dr. Palmer, Director Butler, thank you for sharing a bit of the history and about the Peace Love program. Mr. Sparr, of course. Was there anything else you wanted to share, whether it's about the various modalities or any pieces in particular you want to discuss? It's okay if not, if we can just move on, but was there any, I want to make sure you get the last say on anything. Oh, it looks like we've got some beautiful work being shown on the screen right now. Dr. Palmer, what are we looking at? Can you share a bit?
So, yeah, I'll talk about just two of them real quick and give Director Butler has some artwork to share. So these are several of the modalities. There were 5 at the time, and I believe there's 12 now. And so the one in the top, if you can see the two faces, it's called dual emotions. And that means there's 2 different emotions going on at the same time. And so they use some of the embellish to really kind of create a message of how they're feeling, sad, happy, up, down. And so they create out of how they feel, being able to identify those 2 emotions going on. And then the one to the left is called a calisthenic, where you see love and hope. And that's one of my favorite workshops because everybody participates in this canvas and adds to this canvas. And then by the time it gets back to the original owner of the canvas, there's a message in it. And I've done this workshop countless times, and it has never failed to resonate and speak volume to that person. And so one of the things in that one particularly, it was about hope and love. And this particular person was really feeling really kind of down, and she felt like she needed more love in her life, and she needed to increase hope because of the situation she was facing with the criminal justice system. So when she got it back, it just kind of blew her mind that, man, it came back to me. So in other words, using the art spoke to the universe, if you will, and then the universe spoke back to her and was able to really give her some peace of mind in that moment and be able to just articulate a message that strengthened her and gave her something that she needed. And then I'm gonna not go ahead with the other 2, but I'll go ahead and let Director Butler share a couple of the guys' work.
So I have a couple of pieces of work. And these pieces for me kind of speak to what you mentioned earlier, Jared. You mentioned about art building community, right? And so that's one of the most powerful pieces of Peace Love. Like, we go into a place that's typically not a safe space, and there's not a whole lot of community building in the county jail. And so we get our groups together and we're able to build community and build a rapport. So the first piece that I'm going to show you is actually from a woman in Fort Collins, Colorado. We went out there and did workshops, first with their uniform staff, and then we brought the uniform staff in with the inmates and did workshops together, and just built community in that way. And so this young lady, I'm not sure how well you can see it. So if you notice in Patrice's picture, Patrice had two faces, and they have the option of even of using the faces that we give them or drawing their own. So she drew this face, and she said that the one side with the very pretty young woman, she said that that's what everybody sees on the outside. And the other side is her side when she's out committing her crimes and getting high and things like that. The most powerful thing about this piece and the young lady that did it is that the deputies that sat at the tables with her then began to understand her and her story. Mm-hmm. They found out throughout that moment that this young girl started using drugs with her mom when she was 9 years old, because they always judged her for funneling in and out of their system because they used to see her mom do the same thing, right? And so we were able to build community and just start a conversation. So this is one of my favorites. I was so excited when she told me I could keep it. The second one I'm going to show you is also from Dual Emotions as well, because it's another one of my favorites, and it's a spin on Dual Emotions. This was a gentleman that was in the county jail. And so what he did was he took the faces, but he carved out the faces of a little boy. And so he made those faces of a little boy facing his face as a grown man. And so this was him reflecting on his childhood and some of the things that happened there. And so these are definitely my favorite pieces. I have them hanging in my office. The people that participate in my Peace Love group, those are my people. So when I was watching the video, I always get all the feels. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some pieces.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that, the wonderful artwork, the incredible work that's been a part of Peace Love. Exceptional stuff, truly. We'll next turn over to Zach Ruppel. Zach, let's call the floor yours, and can you talk to us a bit about what music has meant to you?
Sure, thank you. I am thrilled to be a part of this discussion. So much talent and connection and vulnerability and healing happening. I wanted to share just briefly about the place that music has had in my life before, during, and after incarceration, and a short story of a piece that I recorded to share this evening. So I started playing the piano, I think about the traditional time, probably 11, 12 years old. It happened somewhat strangely. My mom was having a yard sale and someone dropped off a piano randomly in our garage, and I just started tinkering on it. And I wasn't good at sports. Those of you that know me will not be shocked by that statement. But I really took to music and got in lessons, and the rest is history. But early on in the process, dealing with my own identity, dealing with some mental illness, eventually dealing with addiction, soon I found myself using music as something that was very therapeutic, very personal, and allowed me to communicate a lot of the elements of my struggle that I was just simply not willing to say out loud, or had not even really come to terms with in a way that I could process. My mom and a lot of the folks that knew me at that time said they could always tell the kind of day I had had based on the kind of song I sat down and played when I got home from school. And that still rings true today. I will come home after a hard day and just let my keyboard have it. And there are other times where, I'm winding down for the evening and I just kind of meditatively play an arrangement of a hymn. And so music has always directly reflected what is going on in my heart and mind in that moment. When my justice involvement began in 2013, lot of uncertainty, a lot of shame, and really that allowed me to get on the path to healing and to where I am today. But music continued to be a part of that process. There was so much panic and fear initially at the onset. When I went to my hometown in Southeast Ohio, I happened upon a book, simple hymn arrangements. And there was an arrangement of a hymn in there called God Will Take Care of You. And every time I went to my grandmother's house for the 2 years that I was dealing with the litigation of my case, I played that hymn. And it continued to be something that was very near and dear to me, as just something to anchor, as something to hang on to, something that was familiar when everything else was chaos. During my incarceration, It was no surprise to anyone that knew me that one of the first things that I did when I arrived at CCI was find the first piano I could get my hands on. And that continued to be something that was very therapeutic to me. And it didn't matter how to tune it was, it didn't matter what the music was. It was 88 keys that had gotten me through so much already. And I knew I could hang on to. If nothing else, I had those 88 keys. I am fortunate, blessed enough now to continue to have music as a part of my life, both personally and professionally. And the piece that I wanted to share this evening, actually, I just recorded last weekend, and one of my very dear friends surprised the heck out of me. As I said, when my case started in 2013, there was a lot of fear, both among, in my mind and also those that supported me. And so everyone changed my name and their cell phone to some pseudonym, just as kind of a joke. And so my very close friend, John, did that same thing. And about a month ago, we were having dinner and he handed me a manila envelope and said, "Open it. It's your birthday gift. I've got to give it to you now." My birthday's in August. So I was like, what is going on? So he gives me this piece of music, and I look at the top and there's a statement, and it says, "For me." He had a piece of music commissioned in my name, blew me away. The thing that made me laugh, but was also kind of incredibly appropriate, was that he continued to use my pseudonym at the top. From him, talked about our friendship, moments of music, moments of connection, of God, and really incredible arrangement and something very, very special. And to know that with each of these publications that are released and that someone purchases with the intention to use in a sacred space or in their living room, that statement of commissioning of the connection to my friend and I is going to be a part of that piece of music is really, 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 really incredible. And I think highly reflective of the journey, and that music has been beside of me the entire way is what I literally can hang on to. So I want to share the piece with you briefly, and then I'll let somebody else talk. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen okay? That it can give me feedback? Okay.
Beautiful. Zach, thank you for sharing. It felt like a big exhale, and it's nice to have moments of just that. So thank you for sharing. Panelists, all of you, thank you for sharing. Audience, this is now the time. I'm gonna pose some questions to our panelists to address some of the things we've been talking about a little more in depth, but now would be a really great time to utilize the chat function or the Q&A function, whatever you see on your Zoom call, to go ahead and ask our panelists any questions that might be on your mind with respect to the arts or the arts and reentry. If you're joining us over Facebook Live or other social media networks, you should also have the ability to ask questions if you just comment on it. Through the power of technology, I think we'll see it. So you too can go ahead and post some questions no matter how you're listening and tuning in this evening. So feel free to, over the next few minutes to go ahead and get those questions into the box. For now, panelists, what's on my mind specifically, there seems to be sort of this movement or this groundswell that's at the intersection of the arts and reentry to revise the narrative as it relates to service opportunities that include the arts. So essentially, there's a big movement trying to place the arts not so much as an either or choice, but more so a both and choice or an approach. So my question is this for the panel to kind of toss around with each other. The question is, why aren't the arts the first thing that comes to folks' minds when they reenter? Or you can think about it a different way. Why should the arts be the first thing that comes to mind when folks are about to reenter or who have reentered or are just interested in engaging more? So feel free to jump in. I won't call on anyone, but let me know if you have any initial thoughts.
Jared, I'll take a, okay. I'll just take a quick stab at it, then I'll turn it over to Dr. P. I think when it comes to the both and piece, which I like that reframing, I think it comes down to a couple topics that always seem to come up with reentry, which is the need to reconnect with community and self and to heal trauma. And I think whether or not you're looking for your state ID, a job, housing, those are going to always be part of that. And so while it's so important to have identification, transportation, employment, and housing, if in your new house, you lay your head down at night and you don't feel part of community, you don't feel like you can express yourself, and you feel connected to nothing around you, that's only so much of the reentry process. And I think that's the part that the arts will always provide, whether or not folks consider themselves to be an artist or not. We all have at least a soundtrack that we can identify with, or we have a certain set of lyrics that we could write down, or just free verse writing that works for us. And so in the midst of all of the hustling for worthiness that is involved in the reentry process, without that sense of expression and connection and vulnerability, it's always just going to be shallow, in my opinion.
Thank you for that, Zach. I just want to say that I think that when you look at the human beings were meant to connect, right? And sometimes our poor choices or decisions in life disconnected us. And the arts has a way of reconnecting you to center you with you and then with those around you. One of the things I always say about the arts is that it's going to speak a language that you can understand. You don't have to be an artist. And that's one of the things I love about Peace Love. And that's one of the first things we say. I don't know I'm not an artist. You don't have to be. Just know that every piece you create is a masterpiece because it's original and it's yours. And to watch the response of people, not just in the incarceration population, but we've had judges, we've had political leaders, we've had business owners, judges in their courtrooms and community. We've done some of the schools in the community all respond to art in a way that they never thought was possible. Like they could express themselves. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about art and using the arts, whether it's music, whether it's coloring, painting, artistic work, authoring a book, poetry, spoken word. It is speaking a language that heals internally. And I think that people have had a lot of trauma, especially in this last year with COVID-19, all the isolation, all of the stuff people had to deal with. And mentally, we don't have the capacity to handle it. But art has a way of helping you to balance and level that thing out. So that's why I think arts are very important. And then especially with the incarcerated population, because it gives them an opportunity to be in a space that removes them for the moment. While we have those workshops, 2 hours, they are removed from that present place of incarceration. The chaos that Director Butler said, it removes them from that and it allows them to be human again. So that's what I love about the arts.
Yeah, Jared, if I can add to that real quick.
Please.
I think speaking on the aspect of not focusing on it more from someone who's incarcerated going into reentry, I think it's because it's not necessarily the thing that is going to get you to reentering society. Speaking on programming in prison, like they deem art as recreational activity in a lot of places. So if everything that you do is meant for like deficit-based programming, or just find out the thing that's wrong that you need to fix in order to become a productive citizen in society, you don't get the chance to express yourself creatively through the art because you spend so much time focusing on that because that's what's going to get you home. But if the culture shifts and they start to use art as a way to strengthen the individual leaving, then that'll be a thing that's in the forefront of your mind as you leave. You get to take what you've learned and have you grown with you. And I think that culture shift would allow more people to express themselves creatively once they come into reenter society. So as long as the culture is deficit based, I don't see the way that people are going to grasp how beneficial arts is.
Certainly, there's a degree of advocacy there, no doubt. But also, Dr. Palmer, to your point, the arts, they're medicine, they're healing. They allow one to express oneself in other ways that just are not possible. So thank you to all of you. Mr. Sparr, I don't want to leave you out either. If you want to jump in, please feel free, or Director Butler. It's a party here, so there's no rules at this panel. And please, audience, continue to get those questions in. We'll get to them in just a minute. I promise. We see a couple already in there, and we'll get to them. I want to ask one more question, though, and Michael, it kind of gets back to what you were discussing about the essentialness of the arts. And until the arts can be deemed as just as essential as everything else, it's difficult to change that narrative. So on a more practical level, for folks who might be preparing to reenter, who may have recently reentered, or who just want to dive more into it, on a practical level, what is one piece of advice that you would offer them as it relates to the arts, as it relates to engaging in the kinds of programming that we've discussed today, or the kinds of opportunities? What advice would you give to someone who's considering this or doesn't know much about it in the first place?
The first thing I would say is just try it, and try everything that you could figure out, that you could find that's new. Because, I never would have thought that I'd have been doing theater, if I'm just being honest. I'd have never thought that, I would learn lines and practice a thing and embody a character, and it would actually make me feel like somebody new within myself. That didn't even make sense to me before I actually did it. So just try something new.
I'd say I agree with Michael. Try something new. And one of the things I would say to our leadership, and to Director Butler and her advocacy, to our office, our Deputy Director Pierce at the time, and Chief Perry, allowing us to bring Peace Love in as a pro-social activity. We done the CBT 2 days a week, but we added an extra week. And then inviting them in and advocating so that they can come and see the work and be a part of it. We would say, Butler and I would say this all the time, we can tell you about it every day, all day long. But if you come and experience, that's different. And I think like in the video, you saw Judge Thomas say, she came, she experienced it, and I gotta have it. right? Because we can advocate for it, we can share it, but when they experience the freedom that the arts gives you, then they're going to be more open or have a stronger buy-in to bring that in to the population that we serve. And then the people that we are using it with are taking it home. They're doing it with their children. Some of the men in the video said, as I go to prison, I'm going to talk to them about it because we got to have it. And I think the more we experience it as a standalone restructuring for my mental capacity and to help me find a balance, we're going to see the arts grow stronger across this country.
I kind of think administratively, like peace, love, we can talk about it all day long. It's like one of the best things that we have. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, but we only have a limited capacity for how many people we're able to bring into the program. So what we've done in the county jails is we've brought the arts in in different ways. And so we'll do contests. And who doesn't want a good bag of shebangs, right? Or like, or a Hershey bar or something like that. So we're like, hey, here's a children's storybook contest. Illustrate this book, write the best story, and you could win this contest. You could either work together or by yourself, or we've had mural contests. But just to get like those creative juices flowing and to get them active and to understand, and it may be some men that wouldn't necessarily come to a group called Peace Love, or women, but they're okay with writing a book for their kids. And so just having those experiences and just kind of initiating those things, I think helps tremendously.
That's wonderful. Yes, the arts are healing. The arts can also be competitive from time to time. That's a good point.
One of the things that I just put into the chat, I just wanted to comment on very quickly. And I realized as I was typing it, I didn't want it to sound like a comment on what Director Butler had said, but rather in addition to, I think especially in larger institutions, there is the tendency to allow enrollment into art-based programming, music, theater, those types of activities as an incentive or as a reward. If you keep your nose clean, you can be in the play. When instead, why would we not give mandalas and colored pencils to folks sitting in segregation whose minds are in one of the worst places they've been in their entire lives as a way of healing? Why would we not encourage the writing of lyrics to the music that you might be able to hear down the row from you? So I think it's a paradigm shift, and I appreciate what Director Butler had said about that. Yeah, we can't get everyone necessarily all in the same place at the same time. But if we're talking about the arts, we can be creative, and we should be creative, both administratively and when we think about it from a policy point of view. And I think that's really, really, really important. And I appreciate those of us on this call, and I from what I see from the attendees as well, we're all kind of in that same vein. But I think finding little victories and ways to move that agenda forward is going to be really important over the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point about the policy shift at the local level, state and national level. I think all of it is at play here. We've only got a few minutes left, but I know there's a couple questions we want to get to. The first question I saw was more of a general question about how can we connect people to the arts during or after incarceration. I want to throw a couple of resources out there, if I may. There's a host of, if we're talking about just Central Ohio, a flurry of arts activities that folks can engage in post-incarceration. Also during incarceration, there's a couple of groups. There's one group out there that I'm kind of representing today called the Ohio Prison Arts Connection. I'll put that in the chat box. But when you talk about ways that we can engage with the arts inside, the Ohio Prison Arts Connection is making that happen to a certain degree. So I'll put that resource in there. But on a more broader level, it's okay, how do we engage in the arts while reentering? Like I said, kind of at the beginning of the conversation, the arts are really around us, and especially here in Central Ohio, there is a huge presence of arts and culture almost everywhere that you look. So there's a number of resources you can tap into, a lot of different publications. One that comes top of mind for me is a resource that's put together by the Greater Columbus Arts Council. It's called ColumbusMakesArt.com. ColumbusMakesArt.com. Reentry.com is essentially a listing of events and activities around Central Ohio, various systems and formats and structures and price points, but a lot of good stuff that you can find on there, and it's updated pretty frequently. I see Dr. Palmer, you put in there peacelove.org. That's fabulous. Thank you. And then, just some general other publications like 614 Magazine, Columbus Underground, Columbus Monthly, Columbus Alive. All of these kinds of publications typically try to do a good job of posting cultural events, artistic events. And there's one other resource I want to make sure I get out there, and it is specifically for Central Ohio, and it's was created by the Ohio Prison Arts Connection, and it's called the Ohio Prison Arts Connection Arts and Culture Resource Guide. I'm going to drop a link in the chat, but essentially this resource guide overviews all kinds of things, all kinds of organizations in Central Ohio who have made space for folks who might be reentering. So in comes the link. It looks like it's to a Google Doc. It's because it is, or Google Drive file. But if you click on that, you should be able to download it. And Michael Powell, you put in there Healing Broken Circles. Thank you so much. We'll just drop a couple links in here. Good question. And there's one more I think we might have time to get to. We'll have to let everyone go. But the question is this, panelists. It came in from our Q&A. Let's see. How does developing an appreciation of varying forms of art affect the process of restoring social connections with family and friends, or developing new connections for those in reentry? And it's in the chat if you need to read that again. But essentially the question sounds to be, how does it work when you develop an appreciation of the arts? Does it affect and help restore social connections? Can it? How could it? Any thoughts on that as we get ready to depart today?
So I dropped a response to that question into the Q&A, but the comment that I offered was, for me as a musician, I think the direct correlation there is one of the things that for me has been the most therapeutic since I started piano 20 some years ago is not having to play all the right notes, and being okay with slipping up here and there and then improvising when it happens. And we all can make all kinds of metaphors of everything that I just said, and they are all there and they're all important. And so I think anytime you're creating, being okay with coloring outside the lines, with playing an E flat when you need an E natural, tripping up over a word, that's life. And I think that's also reentry. And I think being willing to be vulnerable and make those types of choices and mistakes allows us to be gentler with ourselves and a society that might be very foreign to us as we're reentering.
And I just want to say that I think that it helps to build a bond. There's some artwork that you can create together, mother and daughter, mother and son, the fathers and their children. As a therapeutic community director at a male institution, I've done a lot of different engagements with the men and their children. And we use the arts as a way to help them have a safe conversation. And sometimes we used it as a form of them being able to break the silence because they didn't know how to re-engage with their children or with their family. And art has a way of doing that. It has a way of expressing itself. It's very therapeutic. And I think you develop it naturally and not try to, have this be inside of a box. But when you're creative, you're out of the box, right? And you just allow the mind to just go. You don't come in it with your eyes, I'm gonna have them closed. You come in it open and just being free. And that's what the arts does. And I think that it helps families. I have a friend of mine who done an art project with her family as a part of their family reunion. And the comments she made from it, how they just sat down and was no instructions, they just created. And together they created. So I think using the arts and being able to be open to it, it's really biblical. Back in the biblical days, art was used to express whether that was music, poetry, all of that. It expresses an internal language that is universal. So that's why I think, you know, when I think about the arts, I think it's universal and it's a language and it's going to pull you in. So, you know, that's just my thought.
It's going to pull you in. I like that. Let's leave it at that. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us. Panelists, thank you. Audience, thank you. Hope you have a really wonderful rest of your evening and the rest of Central Ohio Reentry Week. Panelists, any parting words for folks as we hop off here?
Jeff? I know this is amazing to him.
Oh, just so inspired by listening to everybody. Just thank you for the inspiration and all the great work you're doing, and such hope. So let's keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll catch you next time. Take good care, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.